So Chanukah is it's one of the great Yom Tov. Let me tell you a Chassidish word, which I always like this word because when I was young it bothered me. You know that in history there were greater miracles than Chanukah that happened to Klal Yisrael. I don't know if you learn Tanakh, if you ever learn Tanakh, and there's a lot of much bigger. You know the story of Sisera from the Dvoira and Barak ben Avinoam. You know the Dvoira Hanaviyah, and her husband was Barak. We say Barak, we say ben Avinoam, and they went to war, and they went to war against Sisera, which were, the Pusik says they were like the grass on the fields, and they were only 10,000, and they slaughtered them. The biggest miracle later was with Sisera and what? But Sisera, the Gael was by Sisera, but Sancheriv was even Cheskiyui was davening to the Bani Shloim. Sancheriv had 185,000 soldiers surrounding Yerushalayim. The Medrash says it was 185,000 captains. And that night, they all died. That's an incredible miracle. No. That's a different story. That is Dabaram. That's that was by Elisha. But this was Becheskiyui. Becheskiyui Sancheriv. That's But over here, 180,000 people left, and didn't we celebrate? Nothing. So the Chassidus is so bring from the Rizal Amoyde de Gevot. The question is why we say Shechayoni, Vikimoni, Vigiuni Lazman Hazeh, Sheusanis Lavaseini, Bayuma Maheim. Says Bayuma Maheim Zman Hazeh. It's very Sheusanis Lavaseim Bayuma Maheim. What's the Zman Hazeh? So the many of the Chassidus Shun, the Kedishas Levi says a very simple pshat. The Rizal says that every Yontif there's this Galus Or, the same Or. What happened the first Rosh Hashanah, the first Yom comes down to this world. The other Yom Tovim, the Chazal knew the Or doesn't come down. It happened then and then. They saw Baruch HaKodesh Shai Chanukah, Shai Purim. That light is going to come down every year. That's a Shus Nisla Sem Yom Haim B'Zman Hazeh. We still have that light of the Nes B'Zman Hazeh. So, anyways, let me explain quickly over here. There's a machlokes. I will tell you something very interesting. There's a machlokes at Rishonim on the Mahadrim. Let's start with this way. There's a din Ner Ishibeisa. I just was explaining to the Rabbi when we say Ner Ishibeisa, the many Rishonim hold you must have a bias. You know what Ner Ishibeisa means? One Ner for the whole household. That means you have 10 children. The Sfardim only the husband lights. Ner ish ibeisoy, and they do the mahadrim. That means each night they light another one, but only the balabas. So we Ashkenazim, we do both. That every male lights, but the Sfardim are very makbid that only the balabas lights. That's how the Sfardim are makbid. So anyway, so many learn that when it says ner ish ibeisoy, you have to light in the house. You can't just light. That's clearly we're going to see later. I'll explain later. You can't decide, I happen to be in the restaurant, I'm going to light in the restaurant. The wedding, Chanukah wedding is very difficult. You can't light at the wedding hall. There's been one of the questions, you can do what you want. Yeah, they always make at a wedding, at a Chanukah, they make a big thing, and but you can't, you don't live there. So just because you're eating your supper there, the big problem is what the Chosn Kala do. Well, Shiva Bocher, it was a huge problem. I tell people when they ask me, don't make the wedding Chanukah. I have someone in the community ask me, and his wife is the aunt of the Chassan. I forgot what she told me, the Kala, I forgot. But my wife has to be there for the pictures. The pictures is everything's gesagt to be at the pictures. So she has to be there 3 o'clock. So what should I do? He says, I tell you what to do. You should light. You're staying in the motel. You're staying in the hotel. We're eating at the hotel anyways. They were eating, and the light in the hotel at right, before the shkia. right at the shkia, because there's machlokes rishonim when you should light. Every holds b'diavad, you can light mepagah mincha. But many rishonim hold you light at the shkia. The Lushan and Gemara is mishkia sachama. So the some rishonim hold is the soft shkia when it gets dark. Shkia means sunset. When it's sunset, and some learn it means the beginning of the sunset. When the sun goes down, the rim of the sun goes down. But anyway, some machlokes are old machlokes are rishonim. As I told them, light at sunset, right after the sunset, and then drive to the, you'll arrive. But al kapanim, you can light wherever, you understand? You can't say, I'm at my parents' home, and I'm going to light there now. People ask me, tell me, they're getting together for the Chanukah Nacht, and they're getting together. You don't live there. You have to light in the place where you live. I have someone who could call me, this year it's terrible, it's Thanksgiving. You know how many people call me, not going into an Indian, you're not allowed to celebrate Thanksgiving, but I'm talking about some of these about shuvas. If you don't show up, one guy told me, if I don't show up, I'm not going to live the end of this. But the secular world, this is like.
They go back home. They can like when they go back home.
But this is San Diego, and they live here, and the traffic is going to be a madhouse. He tells me it'll be horrible till I get back. She says I should travel there. I want to sleep there. So I told him go there early. He's going to rent out a hotel room, and he'll eat there, and light there, he'll sleep there. So that's part of your household now.
If you're planning to light and then leave, you have to watch it for half an hour?
If I was a Chassidish minig, nothing to do in halacha. It's a very important. From a Chassidish minig became a big problem. This is a no halacha. You have to sit there. It's a minig. It's a nice, beautiful. The Tamid Bashem Tov, all of them, all Chassidim were makbid to sit there. It was an old Bashem Tov minig. What?
To make sure it's not too loud?
No, nothing to do that. To take in the oides of Chanukah. In Chabad, the Rebbe didn't sit by the menorah. All Chassidim. But this comes from Baal Shem Tov. This is not halacha. This is very important to remember. This is not the halacha. This is a Chassidish minig from the Tamid Baal Shem Tov.
Friday night you light, no one stays because
Right.
you go to shul.
Right. You have the best moshe this Friday night.
Why some years in yeshivas do they light in the dining room and some yeshivas have been to
So okay, let me explain this. There's this. No, this is a machlokes. It's not just Babich. It's all over. This is a old machlokes. Let me explain this. What happens? You eat. He's asking. Let me explain what he's asking. What's your first name again? Sally. Naftali. Yeah, let me explain what he's asking. This is an important question. What happens if a guy sleeps in a dormitory? They sleep in one place. Let's say in jets. They sleep almost a mile away, almost. And they eat, the place where they eat is mamish the besmedish where they, most of the day they are. There's a Gemara this way. The Gemara wants to know when a person eats in one place and sleeps in another place, which eight of Chatzeros does he need to join? What even Chatzeros is? When a bunch of people live in a courtyard, we have to collect bread from everyone. If there's no Erev in the town, just if there's an Erev over here. And you know what that is? You know what that means? So the question is, if I only sleep here, do I cause a problem? Or eating? So the Gemara says, Gemara talks about the Tamidim used to eat one place, sleep another. So the Rav says, you really want to eat where you sleep. Because that's where you're sleeping in your dormitory is much better. You have no choice, you eat over there. So according to that, you should light where you sleep. But the problem is yeshivas didn't want you should light where you sleep because, bocharim are bocharim. Bocharim are bocharim. The boys are boys and they're not responsible. So they made him light in the dining room. But many hold you can light where you eat. So that's all. But really, someone just asked me, a newlywed just got married, and he says like this, right? Mamish a week after the chasana. And he's staying here for another 3 weeks. And he's saying, I live in a back house, one of the back houses in the neighborhood, but I eat only by the shviga. They don't cook and anything. So where should he light?
Where does it feel more at home? If she would
So I asked him this question. I want to ask you, do you really want to eat by shviga, or would you want your wife to cook already? Let me ask you, Amos. I wish I would have my privacy eating. Which newlywed doesn't want that. So you really, explain, that's what the Gemara says. So really your home is where you're sleeping. You have no breda. You don't want to, you're newlywed, you're going to tell your wife, start cooking, you have time to scream at her later. But right now you're being very careful. So Mela, That's why you really should light where you're sleeping. Same thing at the Shabbos Neiros. Shabbos Neiros, I tell this to people, he has an obligation to light where he sleeps. Because at home, when he's eating by Shviga, there's plenty light.
Right.
Here, there's a chiyuv to have light. See, I want to explain something. Many people don't have. Shabbos Neiros is not romantic lighting. It's the light. You know, the Smag asks a very cute question. Why do we make a bracha at Lukas Neiros? Why don't we make a bracha preparing the cholent? Rishon, the Smag was a balotoises. You're preparing light. So he answers a very interesting teretz, because you see, if you only have one ner, a candle, that's either good for Shabbos or good for Chanukah. Which one should you light? Would you use? If I use why? Shalom Bayis is more important. That's the thing what it says. So you see that Shalom Bayis is so important. Chazal made a bracha, made the man a bracha. But the Shabbos candles is made to have light. That's why I tell my wife that when she lights the candle, she put on the lights too. She puts on the kitchen light, she puts on the iron, she lights the candle, makes the bracha on everything. The bracha should go on everything. So a guy who's sleeping in one place and eating another place, lighting the Shabbos candle must be where you sleep, because you have to come back. And should he kushel be'etz ve'evan is the solution, but it shouldn't bump into a, should have light when you come back.
The point is where you're sleeping that particular night. If you're traveling all late nights, you light in each location.
Well, that's a big problem. There's a machlokes. There's a huge this thing that I just said. I see that the last generation of big machlokes in the Achronim. Is it if I live one night is good enough? Some holding you have to be more. It's accepted the kula that if you're with your wife and you rented a room, you eat and sleep, that's your dwelling for now.
So if you're driving to your in-laws' house in San Diego, you stay the night.
If you stay there for the night, but he's not staying there.
So he either has to stay
Yes,
there.
yeah, he doesn't want to stay there. I didn't ask why.
But there are, there are some achronim that wrote it's cheves agavra, just a cheves agavra. Pure.
So what's chavis again?
The Monoid, I'm saying. There are some achronim that take a paskin that has nothing to do with your house.
Yeah, but then it is the Shoinim. No, it's Das Yochel. They bring up a Sarishan, I remember seeing. Tracy says not that way. The Mungavrum said they bring up a Sarishan and wants to say that it's not, you could light any place. That's what most places don't go with that. Most places don't go with that.
But if the concept's pursuing Misa, then what does it matter?
That the Pesima Nissa was your household should make a Pesima Nissa. Neri Shebesa, your household.
So the famous question, what do you do when you're on the airplane?
Oh, now we're going to talk about that. Before I get there, I want to say a cute question. Remind me of this. I want to first say, people ask me another question. His wife is in college once a week, and last year someone asked me this. And she comes home very late. I don't know how it works the afternoon until she comes. It's 11 o'clock. Once a week she comes home. So 11:30 till she arrives home is 12. What should I do? Should I wait till she comes home? It's a huge di'evid. Okay. Or betzem, if you light she's yoytze, you know that your wife is yoytze, but you're lighting even though she's not there. Just like Ner Shabbos,
Right.
your wife light, you have a chiv to light. The only reason you don't light, your wife lights, and if you're not there, you're also yoytze. So be'ikar adin, if your wife is out of the house, if you light, she was yoytze, the lighting. The reason we want her to be home because you want to hear the bracha. There's one shit that holds that the shusanism. How are you going to make shusanism? She has to make the shusanism. So it's, but me'ikar adin, if you light at home, she's yoytze. So the question is, should you light right in the beginning of the time, or wait till she comes? The reason why people, the Achronim say, I thought about myself, and I was so happy to see one of the early Achronim say this. Chanukah Shalom Bayis was more important than Chanukah Lech. Imagine if your wife, it depends on your wife. I know ladies, tough ladies. Oh, light, no problem. I have a daughter that way. By her, she wouldn't be phased. But most women, she didn't wait for me. You couldn't wait for me. Shall I eat them? You know what I mean? If that's the case, then. See, I want to, before I get to what you said before, there's another question. When should you light? Everyone agrees. I must say a very important halacha. Most achronim agree you have to light like a tchila at the beginning of the zman. Whatever zman you hold. I think Rabbi is also very makbid on this. But whatever zman you hold that, some hold it's right at sunset, So when it gets dark. Machlokes in the Rishonim. Some said it's the Zman as soon as the sun goes down. Some Rishonim when it goes dark. But whatever, there's two shittas in the main shittas in the Rishonim. Whatever shitta is, everyone agrees you must light like a tchela. There is Tosis learns in one teretz in the Gemara. If you didn't light that half hour, you can't light anymore. There's nothing to light. It's like a guy like Shabbos candles, Motzei Shabbos. The time is up. We don't pass in that way, but everyone agrees you have to light. That's why I tell people if you could come home in time, you should be home in time for lighting candles. If you can't, you can't. People have a job and you can't leave the job, you can't leave the business. But if you are your own boss and you could come home, you're obligated to light the tchilas this man.
You have to wake up the kids, but then if you're lighting
It's
late,
5 o'clock.
if you're lighting late, let's say you're driving home from San Diego, and your kids are out, do you have to wake them up?
Your kids should light. Where are the kids?
They're in the car?
Oh, you shouldn't do that. You should light like a tchilah. I mean, you should avoid it.
For example, let's driving home.
Yeah, but you should avoid that. If it happened, yes. How if the children are getting chanukah, they should. Als the bruch is usenis, you should wake them up.
Then if it affects shalom bodies, the wife is not happy that you're waking the kids up.
What one person's might say everyone. I mean, everyone makes. The usenism is independent. The Gemara says if a person didn't light, and the Gemara says, let me tell you, the Gemara says if a person didn't light, so Tosi says, why didn't he light? Tosi says he doesn't have a house. Homeless. So he doesn't have a house. So Tosi says this is the dik with all the Cholim and Daik from Tosi, the Bach and the Taz, and Daik that you have to have a house to light. Tosi and Sukkah. The only they bring up is a shit that argues on Tosis. But Tosis clearly says you must have a house. You can. So let me address what he asked, Ben Yaman. He asked, what is flying? I don't this year, I don't know why, but I was asked 4 months ago already. Someone asked me. I booked tickets for the whole family, and I realized it's the first day of Chanukah. And a few people asked me, and then I was told that because it's Thanksgiving weekend, it's earlier, and people are the cheaper flights. Anyways, the bottom line is, what happens you're on the plane? Now that is a huge machlokes in the Achronim. The Moshe Amomishah holds that a plane is not your dwelling. So you can't light it, there's nothing to light. We'll get to it, what you light. Someone told me, Chabad told me in the Kollel, I asked him, he tells me, he overheard me talk about this question, someone with me. So he says he has a friend, a shliach, was flying on the plane. He locked himself in the bathroom with his wife, and he closed he lit the candle, and you know, if he's a half hour in the bathroom, he comes out of the bathroom, the whole plane started clapping. They didn't know what he was doing in there, just people wanted to use the bathroom. He said he was busy on us. But I told him, I don't know who he is, but he's a Chusid Shaita.
I saw people wrote, I was reading out that they should ask them to light a candle in the back. This is before 9/11. Light a candle.
Yeah, but the Behemis Haran, the Moshe holds he can, but others disagree. The Marsham discusses the question with the train. Before the airplane, and they used to travel trains for days. Used to be on the train for 3-4 days. They used to be traveling. So he says, who says it's not called a dwelling? He does. He says you can't. What? Let's make a difference.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, although in a seat lays, but you could fall asleep. But the Moshe doesn't say that. He doesn't say it's a bed. Moshe says that it's just traveling. That Marsham says even though I'm traveling, but I'm traveling for 3 days.
But it was really a different type of travel.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that. Yeah, he doesn't say that the kuda is because I have a bed. He doesn't say that. It just says the question is if I'm traveling and I don't want to be on this place, I need to travel. Is it? That's the first question. He holds yes, a plane. And Masham's words, you see how he understood. Yeah, you're flying now. This is your house. He holds. Moshe holds it's not. Moshe holds this is not your house. This is like even though you're sleeping there, and you're eating there, it's not like you can stay at a hotel for the night. Like I explained before, you stay one day. You get this is. He says you can't light. But I tell people you should light. Without a bracha. What should you light with electric? Yes, how could you light with electric? You know, most poskim hold that you need to have, you can't light with electric. But the Bitzrich Kovner Rov held that you could. He held you could light with electric. And I was shocked to see that they bring down the B'Shem Zama held that if you have no thing on electric, you can make a bracha. This is not that just gave flying. A woman gave birth. My wife, you know, saw a lady in the hospital. Last year, my wife almost wound up in the hospital. So in the hospital. So
Could you put on the light and make a bracha if you don't have?
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shabbos, for sure you could. Shabbos is zichah that way. Shabbos, you know, often I tell people, my wife was in the hospital, I told her, just put on the night light and make a bracha on the night light. You don't need candles for Shabbos. Candles need light. By Chanukah, many hold you need like candles that was Migdash. Even though you don't demand mamish what it was, you could even light with the Ikaradin, you could light with wax candles, the Gemara says. But it's only a hidden to light what do, but you need a wick with a thing. So some hold that electric's also that way. You know, there's a filament, and it sucks the energy out of the battery. So Kovner held you could. So I tell people, if you're flying, anyways, without a bracha, you should have a light, a tiny flashlight.
No, you can get real lighters, electric. For the
Someone told me that you can get today already, so I made already these tiny menorahs, traveling menorah, electric traveling menorah.
It says not to make a bracha and ask your Rav, it says in the box.
Oh, that's the way, yeah. Panusa, but people don't come on. But the truth is that a person should avoid it. In a mitzvah, you know, if you could avoid it. This guy told me he realized too late it was going to cost him too much money. He bought the tickets and to change all the tickets.
How much money do you have to spend to keep a mitzvah?
He told me it's going to cost him $1,000 to change the tickets.
You want a Mesiris Nebuch Rabbi Akiva to watch night to watch the Kol Sidai.
Yeah, but that's a Isser. That's a Isser, not to eat bread without until a Sidon. Talking about the mitzvah, we don't find that. A person is allowed to go, he's going to Etzisor as a Dvar mitzvah. I'll tell you why I don't make a big fuss, because going to Etzisor is a mitzvah. If you have a mind a mitzvah and the real Oisig mitzvah is bottom in a mitzvah. When people ask me, I don't make a fuss about it. So, Oisig mitzvah, the Rabbanim too.
So why in the day in Yeshiva did they light in the dining room?
Why? Because they don't want you to write in the room.
It's just safety?
Safety.
Yeah, but it's also
Why is it all yeshivas like that? There's many yeshivas you light with the one.
No. Most yeshivas didn't let the boys light. When I was in yeshiva, they didn't let us light in the door. I was a bocha, they didn't let us light in the door. Una shal alucha. You don't light in the door.
What about if you cross the date line?
What did you say?
If you cross the date line, like you're going to Australia.
There's nothing, you know, someone a few years ago was going to New Zealand. New Zealand, you're not allowed to go because it's a bit difficult to stay Shabbos. And I said, he came to me, so there's nothing you can do. He's going to miss a whole day. Nothing you can do.
You don't make it up.
There's nothing to make up.
On Chanukah, you make it up.
Yeah, but you don't come back, you don't make it up.
If you don't like on Chanukah.
You lose a day.
You light twice. In one day.
Well, that's another one. We daven, that's a separate issue. Do you daven twice?
Yeah, you can't. Malam HaKodesh means not only Emory, Malam HaKodesh.
No, when you come back, I don't know if you know, if you start out to Australia, you daven Marav there, and then or Shachris. I left Australia in the morning. We daven Shachris Thursday morning, and we landed Thursday morning. And
Come back, correct?
On the way back.
on the way back.
Yes.
So I daven with Teres Nedova. Put on film. I didn't say the Berchas Krishma. I just daven Shomanester with Teres Nedova. It's a big machlekes. No, there's no clarity. There's no clear. Only Shomanester, Teres Nedova. And if you fly, you don't stand up on the plane and daven. That's not. It says in the Mishnah. Mishnah should sit. So if you're flying, do not get up and daven Shomanester. You should sit. Davka, I sit with Al Hashem Yichud. That one time I was flying to Etzisur and they want to make a minyan. I says, you can't make a minyan on the plane. It was Elal. There's no minyan. You don't hear anything. That's not called a minyan. And I said, I'm not joining the minyan in the back. And then I was sitting in my place. Ever went flying? You want to make a minyan? Yene Geschäft? So when it's Babich, there's a bunch of vision. It's not a minyan. You don't hear and there's noise. It's not. You can't. That's not a minyan. And halacha, forget it's halacha, it's on the menu.
People want taking it. People are comfortable because.
But I watched how all the time it goes. There's no one. There's no seder. There's no. Many has to be together over here. There's it doesn't. Nothing you can do. But anyways, you sit for the halacha is. What do you say?
Were you driving?
No. It's dangerous.
Is it okay?
What do you say?
Is it okay?
No, because it's dangerous.
Are you discuss we're in the house of like Monero?
So let me explain. There's also a misunderstanding. Chazal said you should light outside. That's a Mishnah. The Pesach HaChatzer. So Gemara Pesach Chatzeros you should light. What happened was, if you know that we Ashkenazim lived amongst the Christians, and normally Christmas time was always the same time as Chanukah. And the Goyim, they used to, they were angry at us that we have to keep our holiday. They always wound up by Christmas because the Galachim would preach that we killed Yoshka. They were busy with this all the time. So Mamela, it was dangerous. So they did not allow outside, they light inside. Once you light, now the Gemara says when you light outside, the Gemara says where should you light? You should light the other side of the mezuzah. Mezuzah should be one side and the Chanukah. Now that we don't light outside, so we light inside, you should also light at the door. But the question is, but if you could light that, if you could with the window, that's much bigger hidden to light at the window. You understand? Many people think that Chanukah must be by a doorway. It works the other way around. You must light outside. That's what the Gemara says per Simonissa. You must light at the door of your house. You go, everyone to Eretz Yisrael, you see Chanukah? You ever went to Eretz
Why don't
Yisrael?
we have that here anymore?
Because we still, the Goyim are still going. No, we're still in Golas.
But they're really not.
I remember in Monsey 40 years ago, they asked Yankiv Kamenetsky, are you allowed to walk Shabbos with the talis? Because they started the Eden started walking with the talis in the streets. So he says, not we in Golas. We in Golas? We're not in Golas. That Shabbos, the guy was walking with the talis, and he was shot with the BB gun, and knocked the guy's eye out. They shot him with the BB gun, a guy. We are in Golas. The guy, it's hard to say we're not. But if you live in a place where, a Monsey today, where...
people are lighting outside. People are starting to light outside.
In Monsey, Monroe?
Monsey, yes, and Monroe too, and in Eretz Yisrael, all over Eretz Yisrael, they all light outside. If you go to Eretz Yisrael, it's only the Chassidim who don't know the Halacha well. But the Chassidim who know the Halacha, all light outside.
No, it's a minute.
The minute comes, that's explained.
Mavish's minhag is to light inside by a doorway.
Yeah.
That everyone agrees. If you don't...
No, not just by the front doorway.
Yeah, but the reason was in Europe, again, Europeans did not light outside because it was dangerous.
Right.
So now, the question was, if the Gemara says, if I light outside, I should light at the door, that I should light at the door, the Gemara says, which side of the door should I light? The Gemara says, you should light on the opposite of the mezuzah. Now, we don't light outside. Can I just put on the table and light? So the minig was, we also inside find the doorway to do it. Even though Me'ikar Adin, the whole doorway was only when you light outside. But the minig was that even though, because the Torah says clearly, if you light inside, you can light on the table. On the table! That's the Lushan HaShulchan. Look up the Torah. But the minig was not just by many Chassidim, because the Rizal explains it. The Rizal has a whole explanation that even if you're lighting inside, you should light by the door. But that is because they didn't light outside, period. They didn't want to light the window, they were afraid. They were afraid. Now the question is, if you're not afraid, so then, that's Yisrael. So they all light outside.
So you're saying the worst solution is to light in front of the window? Inside.
Now the worst.
That's because the best solution is to light outside. You can't light outside. Light
Should light by the window. By the window. By the window.
So how come?
To do it by the.
We have minhag to light inside.
Yeah, but I was saying the reason comes from Europe. The minute comes from Europe.
No. Mavish lighting inside.
There's a big
Not by the mezuzah.
And I'll explain it. No, I'll explain it. If you don't, the minig was in Europe, the times of the Torah and the Rosh. They did not light outside because they were afraid from the going. So the Torah says you can light on the table. The Rizal says that even though you're lighting inside, not by the window, just on the table, it's better to light by a door. You understand? That's what the reason is machadish. You would say, what about if I'm not lighting by the doorway outside, then the Tur says, hashted the madliken, alushin, I forgot the alushin, ala shulchan. Yeah, sure, the Tur says you make sure it shouldn't look like this is the benoide for the table. But the Rizal said, I'm almost sure comes from the Rizal, that you should, after became lighting inside, light at the doorway. Question is, if I could light by the window, that's more, in halacha, I'm not telling what Chassidim do, in halacha, you should light by the window. Let's say you're afraid to light outside, but you can light by the window, you should light by the window. And that's so, and Monsey, many people light at the door. It's a Jewish neighborhood. Yeah, that should light outside. If there's, right now, that's I didn't think about this. You hear what the Rabbi says? If you put menorahs on the car, and you put the menorah in Beverly Hills, so you're not afraid of the goyim, then you should light at the doorway.
Doorway outside.
Outside. Or by the window.
Or by the window, right?
By the window, pick up all you got to do by the left side.
No. Yeah, but only when you light. No, that Kehidr was when I'm lighting inside, not by the window. The Rizal said you should light by the door, but he doesn't disagree with the Gemara.
Not to move it, either you light it on the door or light it outside. Why should you go to the window?
Yeah, I'm saying.
Worry outside is it's going to blow out.
Well, they have today. They have these fancy cases. It burns beautiful. I really, it's so they sell it now in New York. Someone told me it really burns very nicely.
Go outside already.
Back to why do we not make a bracha on electric? If I bought an electric,
I don't have a menorah on mine.
The reason the ones who said, because they hold that the mitzvah of Chanukah should be ke'en mitzvah of the menorah, which was oil and a wick. There's no oil, even though it is a wick, sort of to say. The filament is, but it's not oil and it's not a fire wick. It's a different type of a fire. That's why they do.
So if you're not using oil, but using paraffin wax.
That's like oil. It is an oil.
It's not oil though.
But it's not Shemen Zayis, but it's Shemen. The Mishnah says, a bocher calls me up, he says to me that he has Shemen Zayis, but he doesn't have a Shgocha. Doesn't have a Shgocha. So I tell him, you know what the Mishnah says? The Mishnah says you can light with Chaylev. Chaylev is Chayiv Koros if you eat. You know, Chaylev is the fat of the animal. From the what did you say? No, it's mitzvah. So it's Chayiv Koros is mitzvah. Chaylev is mitzvah. So the Mishnah says Chanukah you could use Chaylev. Kol Shmanim. The Mishnah says Kol Shmanim you use for Shabbos, you use for Chanukah. So you can use even Chaylev for Chanukah. But it works, you know how Chaylev works, the fat. Chaylev is, how would you call Chaylev in English? Tallow. It's called tallow in English, no? So that melts when you put a wick, and the wick sucks the tallow. So it works that way. So most poskim held that electric doesn't work that way. But I saw from
because of the process.
But I tell you, the Shlomo Zalman says, if you have mamish have no choice, he also you can make a bracha on that. We try. I don't say that. I tell people if you have no eitzah, just that, you should not make a bracha. I always tell this to people on the plane. A few people are flying, and I told them that's what they should do. Yeah, bracha is not ma'akiv. Every mitzvah bracha is not ma'akiv the mitzvah. The guy put on tefillin and didn't break a bracha is eitzah the mitzvah. You're not going to have that. It's a sveikas. What should you do? No, you can't say Shusanis. Only if you're going to see Ner Chanukah by someone else, you can say Shusanis. Now,
so what's the latest you can light?
The latest you can light, all people ask him, but he have it all night. But he have it. But that's a huge diavad.
Where are you flying nowadays? Just that interest. I don't know.
Flying to Etzisrael. A bunch of people flying to Etzisrael this week.
You're flying the whole night and you don't have time before or after?
Hey, 1:30 is the flight in LA to Etzisrael.
1:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
What time do you arrive in Etzisrael?
9 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning. I forgot what time. 11 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock.
What if you're in the airport lounge? You light in the airport
So the Moshe holds you cannot. It's not that's a machlokas. Your airport lounge, you're only there for a few hours. Even if you can eat, that's not your dwelling. You can't light there.
No, it's light without a bracha.
But if you have no choice, light without a bracha.
What's better, What if someone else already lived there on the,
No, that's worthless. Someone else does. It's just like your lighting. It's nothing. But let me explain another question. What happened? The din is. Let me explain you the halacha. The halacha is that your husband can light and is moitzi everyone, even though your wife is not home, or the wife can light, and if the husband not home is also yoitza. Either way, you know that this is the halacha. Like make halacha. You know, I had a few years ago, a guy called me up that his daughter's got the flu and she's so fast asleep. Should I wake her up? She's not feeling well. And I said, don't wake her up. I said, when is she going to light them? You know, I said, she'll be yoitza. It's only a hiddur. She's not feeling well. It's just a hiddur. So, the me'ikra din, if you light Chanukah licht, everyone in the household is yoitza. Who is called the household? That's a bachas in yeshiva all year round. So the ikar household, whoever eats in the house bekviyas, doesn't have to be the son. If you have a border who eats all the time, even pays for it, but lives with you. You know, in my neighborhood used to have a neighbor. He always used to have a girl, border. They had a big house and they needed money. You would have a girl, board babe. So it doesn't make a difference if it's your children, someone boarding. If they all eat and live in the house, bekviyas. Kviyas means consistently for 30 days they're living the elema. So then whoever lights is moitzi. So even though you're not home, the child is not home, the bar mitzvah bocha is not home, your wife is not home, or the whoever they're not home, you're totally yoitza. That means you're part of the household. Now there's another lucha. That means in most poskim hold you don't have to be there the bracha. We are machme because shus and there's one shit that it holds. But the ikar adin, they can adin again if your wife is in college. The story I just said before. Wife is coming home very late. Make her then if he wants to light the beginning of this man, and he can light, and she's yaitza, 100% yaitza the mitzvah.
What's better?
The marshal holds. I want to tell you a big chiddush. The marshal holds even if she has a mind, I don't want to be yaitza. She's yaitza anyways because the Chazal said this is how the mitzvah is done.
The person who lived had a mind not for them.
So even he says it's automatic. The marshal, not everyone agrees to that. The marshal, Yam Shloib was one of the great poskim. He holds that the fact that the Chazal said this way, so even you no matter what you scream, I don't want you yaitza. Others disagree with that, but the Yam Shloim held that way.
What do we do today? How do we pass?
We are machmer, we are soimach. People like to make brachas. So I have a mind. I'm not going to be yaitza. I come home, I light on my own. That I explained that everyone agrees the noida in the shul. No one is yaitza with that. That says in the Shulchan Aruch. We make a bracha, but it's a minig. You're not in a person lighting. This is very important. Even the person lighting in shul, he's not yaitza. Why? This is not his home. He makes a bracha. So the bracha is as minig, just like halal. Halal, we make a bracha Rosh Chodesh. So the first time I was shocked. I was just to think that the Rav says only the Shlich Tzibur should make a bracha.
Change at the end that everyone back and forth, and the last thing he said is that everyone should make it.
But do you know what the Rav said?
With the bracha, clear, everyone should make it in the shul, at the end, clear. It's printed in all the Musagut. That's the final.
But do you know why the Rav said not to make a bracha?
That's because there's a machlekes. If you make
Yes.
a bracha,
Yeah. So the Rav said that it's a big question of we Ashkenazim because we have many places we don't make a bracha on a minig. L'moshel, Arava, Shana Rabbah. Do you make a bracha on Aravas? No. Because it's only a minig. And even though it's a minig from Chazal, but it's still a minig. We don't make a bracha. So everyone asks, how do we make a bracha on a shchodesh? Shchodesh is no chiv to say halal. Chanukah is a chiv to say halal. You make a bracha. Do you know the Sfadim don't make a bracha on shchodesh? I don't know if you're right, Svadi. You do make a bracha? Already, you're not Svardim, Svadi Toh.
So a person makes a bracha publicly, can he make it multiple times?
in different shuls.
He's bouncing around,
He's allowed to, every shul is allowed to do it, yes. Yeah, but again, answering his question, but he's not Yoitza. Why is he not Yoitza, says in Shulchan Aruch? This is not your home. The shul is not your home, so you could light in the shul out minig. So I explained before to the Rabbi why the people had a pick when they lit in the middle of not a home, because the Lushna Toy says you need a home to light. Can't just light them on. So I once saw someone wrote a kinteris, and he brings this other dik from another Rishon who disagrees. He says even Matarot. You're right. Tosis says clearly this way, but the other Rishonim, I forgot who he quoted. Is mashma that way. What was the question someone just asked before? I was gonna what? No, you asked the question. So let me just say that. So that's called. Then there's then achsanua. You know what achsanua means? A guy is visiting. It's not a son who lives all year round in the yeshiva, or around in the yeshiva, and he comes home for Chanukah. Most poskim hold he doesn't live at home. He lives in yeshiva. 6 months of the year, between Chanukah comes home for Shabbos and he goes right back another 4 months, and then he comes home for Yom Tov and goes back for 4 months. His house is not. You can't call him part of the household. So they hold that a bocha comes home. So if the Sfardim don't light, you know that the Sfardim only. So he's not part of the household. He has to give a pruta for the balabas. The Sfardim shouldn't mak, but only one person to write. It's true. By you, everyone lit, every boy lit. No. Yeah, I have a Sfardi who wants to davke not to. They very mak, but not to. So Mamela, if a boy comes home. The boy comes home, so he has to be mishtata v'shuta prita. You know what I mean?
Is it better to give pruta to be part of it, or to have his own?
The Sfardim are makpid.
No, it's not Sfardi.
That's why they've had Be Ashkenaz and every male lights. Be Ashkenaz and all the male. But Sfardim there was a paid only the balabas light.
Because they hold that if Mahabrim and a Mahabrim.
There's only on one person. Yeah, he held that. The Rambam held. The Rambam Shita was the man doesn't.
What if the Balabait is out of town and pre-bar mitzvah board lights? Is that okay?
Yeah, and Be'ikra din, his wife lights, it's okay. Or the Bar Mitzvah Bocha lights, so it's okay. Sfardim, the same thing. It's the same as Sfardim Ashkenaz. Well, that's two teritzim and toises. Let me explain what you asked. That's a very good question. That's two teritzim and toises. The question is like this. Let me first explain his question. A child is not bar mitzvah, but there's a chiv chinuch to light. Can he light? Let's say there's no father at home, almana, a grusha, and the boy lights. Can she moitza the mother or not? So Toises has two teritzim. One teretz says yes, because it's a derbanan. A derbanan can be it's a derbanan. Yeah, he has a chiv chinuch. The second teretz says it's called a trade derbanan. It's called a chad derbanan. You know what trade derbanan means? The whole Chanukah is a derbanan. B'klal, to light Chanukah lech is a derbanan. And the fact that a child has to light als chinuch is also only a derbanan. It's like two steps, because a child making kiddush is only a derbanan. The child not lighting, the whole chinuch is derbanan. So it's a derbanan. It cannot be moitzer a derbanan that's chayim derbanan. So the Shulchan Aruch says it's best if you have a child on the bar mitzvah that the mother should light. That's the best thing.
What's better if it's a child who's over versus the mother?
Doesn't make it all depends on me. Then the child could light for the mother too. But I want to explain something. The fact is, women don't like to hear this, and it's very painful when I say this to a divorced woman. No, I'll tell you what it is. Me'ikra din, if there's no father in the house, then a woman should light anyways. The whole thing a woman doesn't like is ishta kabbalah. That's the most place can explain this. So, Sofer has a chiddush. Sofer says a whole different explanation. Sofer learns that because outside k'koy basmei penimo. There's nothing better, There's no better. The machloek is why women don't light.
Do women not light?
Only if they live themselves, or a lady who's living at home.
You're married.
Your wife doesn't light. Your sister's lit. Your sister's lit. Menorah. You have sisters? No.
So, but I know the modern Orthodox world.
I forget the modern Orthodox. Modern Orthodox.
They like to light with a bracha too.
Yeah, sure. Someone told me his sister.
For them to light.
No. There's nothing wrong. The meaning is not to. So the Sefer is machlokes nachreinim. Sefer learns that the reason why the meaning never was woman to light because kvoidu bas melech pnimo. They didn't want the mitzvah to light outside, and she should go outside and light. We didn't make such a mitzvah.
But for chinuch, can the younger girls light?
Yeah, they can light. Doesn't matter.
But why you have to be machanav them? You're doing something that
Yeah, I have a house full of girls that never lit. Only the ones in kindergarten.
The girls' schools make menorahs.
Yes. So only the kindergarten girls, when they were in kindergarten, they lit. But it's no, I got older, they didn't.
Schools making menorahs, it's hard to tell you about it.
Okay, anyway, so this is called Achsonu. Achsonu means if you're a guest by someone, you're start of a pruta, you can be yotze with it. So it's very important. You know, if you're just staying by someone's house temporarily, you know, that's a big problem where you should light. You know, it's not so simple. I'm living in this house for a day or two. So that most places can hold, I'm living here day two, this is my place, then I can light. You know, there's a famous question. The only mitzvah we find, there's a mahadrim shabahadrim. We don't find any mitzvah that way.
Because the nest was to do a mitzvah hidden.
Right, the nest, the Shiurim say, why was this way? Because we paskin, if you learn Daf Yomi, timah hitra b'tzibah. So what happened? They didn't have oil. So they didn't have oil, big deal. You can make it b'tumah. You know what timah hitra b'tzibah. If everything is tumah, you could special timah smash, you could light it. So the whole nest came as a hidr mitzvah. You know, hidr means it came that wanted not be samach on that. Yeah. That's what the Chayyim had to Pnei Shimon says. Yos Tamei Meis, now the Chayyim has to Meis was the Ziva, the guy touched it. Yeah, so it's a Tav Zoma, it's not a Tumas, it's Tiv Zoma.
So what's the difference between Chumrah, Be'alma, and the Hidr?
Hidr means, you know, a Chumrah means that, Chumrah always means there's two opinions, and we try to be Mahmoud opinion. Here, the Rabbanim said, you get more credit for this. Yeah, you have to remember the times of Chazal, oil was very expensive. You remember the whole country needed oil for lighting. There was incredible high demand. You needed oil. Everyone rubbed their skin with oil. They lived in an Etzisol, the sun was beating, and they rubbed their skin with oil. So oil was a high demand, it was very expensive. You see, the Gemara talks, a guy has oil only for one, not for Ner Chanukah. I mean, it talks about Shulchan Aruch, he can't have afford for every night. We have a problem with oil. I mean,
Could use anything means they can use pig's fat to light.
yeah, chaylev.
No, but you said chaylev.
Chaylev is kuris. Chaylev is worse than pig.
I asked Asaba, no, but isn't it
No. Pig is osab achila. The only thing is usabanu is chumas pesach, busab b'chulav, klai kerem, and Allah. These are the four things that osabanu. But everything else, chazer and nevela, that's something else. You're not open a business. You mean to you're not open a chazer store? Yes, you're not open a Big Mac. Big Mac. How's it called? Big Mac? What's it called? McDonald's. McDonald's. If you have a mind, he should be yotzim. Yeah. You have to tell the person, I'm making a bracha for you, and listen to the bracha.
But how are they guys if it's not their house?
He's making for he's going to the house. I see the Chabad Shluchim going down the block, and they get they're not my block. Every year, he's not alive anymore, but they used to come and light for the old man. Old man, old lady, and they were Jewish, but they never lit Chanukah. There was a guy, but your bacha would come, and they would come and light for them. Nothing wrong. Great thing. Make a bracha for them.
If I make B'dikas Chometz in someone else's house, I make a bracha for them.
Yeah. If you make a Kiddush also it says if you make Kiddush for someone else, we could say the entire Kiddush. But the only reason like Tchila not to do it, the Shulchan Aruch also and the Mishnah bring down, because there's one shitta that if the guy knows how to do the bracha himself, but if the guy doesn't know, many of these people, I watched one of the Chabad say, put on tefillin. I once told them, you say the bracha. Baruch, Atah, what? What did I say? You ever watch them? You ever watch them put on tefillin? No, you should say the bracha. Nothing wrong. Avada, there's nothing wrong. It's when they make a bracha, 90% of the time it's not a bracha. By the time they're finished, I watched more than once. By the time they're finished, the bracha is not bracha. No, nicht das sei. Well, why can't you make the bracha?
It's part of what you're doing. They're getting the mitzvah of the Akimas Fosam Havamaisa. They're saying the bracha. They're saying the Eibushal's name.
Why don't you do both? No, you don't have to not say Hashem's name. You say both.
I watched in shul. The guy was, who's all confused.
That's the exception.
Where's the source of the Meir Halacha?
That's a gemara. It should not be higher than 10 tefachim, and not under 3. And the reason it should be high 10 tefachim because you have to remember that those days this is one thing people don't read. Those days they lit with a menorah. The whole house had menorahs. Didn't have this light. I came in. It's mamash machayo since you changed the lights here. Those days it wasn't that way. Everyone had menorahs. So if you put it higher than 10 tefachim, people can think that's not for the Chanukah lech. That's probably for the thing. So that's why you have to put less than 10 tefachim.
So when it says if you're going to do it inside, do it on a table, the table has to be below 10.
No, because it depends. The Torah says make sure it doesn't look like. It does say it should be less than tefachim. According to, it's 40 inches. According to Rabbi Chaim, it's about 33 inches from the ground.
As a carpenter, it's the size of the table, 32?
About 32, right? 32 inches, right? According to Rabbi Chaim. The flame.
Can a husband say Hagoyim for his wife?
Sfardim say it. We Ashkenazim don't. Sfardim say Hagoyim for the wife. Some Sfardim.
So she has to be mechoyed.
But the Rav says not that way. The Rav says that the woman should say themselves.
Right. But only for when you're mechoyed to make goyim. We went through this. Many people here think you make goyim, and they decided that that's happened to making goyim.
Well, the Sfardim, no, there's Mechoyk Mechaber and the Remo. The Sfardim held that any small thing they bench goyim. Almost every small thing. We Ashkenazim say it has to be something really dangerous. You know what I'm saying? Sfardim hold that any small thing that the Sfardim held that even if you go on Tfilas Haderech on a road that you need Tfilas Haderech, you make Berachas HaGoimel. Is that true?
I heard if you drive 45 minutes.
Sfardim, you have to make a Berachas HaGoimel. I don't know what the number 45 comes. What did you say? I didn't hear what?
They make them on domestic. Yeah, they make them on domestic flights.
Yeah, I heard that people asking that when people leave jail today, they should no longer bench goyim.
Jail, yeah. That's a Gemara. But it's not a. Sfardim should make a bracha, and Ashkenazim not. It depends. Yeah, really. Sfardim, Ashkenazim only make a bracha when a guy is very sick. Chodesh Yesh B'skana. But depends which jail. Depends which jail. If you're in the state prison, you should bench goyim 10 times. But if you're in the federal system, I don't know the county. I have to ask him. I don't know the county. I went to the state prison to visit someone. Ich habe gemeint, chalish. But I went to the federal prison. It was a camp. Everyone was sitting there and schmoozing, playing cards.
The outsider looks like that.
I ask people.
There's no danger in your neck.
No matter what.
What?
You went away, you get
Been
locked
out
up
for
for
many
murder.
years. It's not.
A person gets locked up for murder, they get out of prison. They have to bench guard.
If they were in one of these dangerous prisons, of course you have to bench goyim.
That's one of the 4 official things for what you're
So it doesn't matter what crime you actually did, it's where you were.
Where you're about there. Let's say you were prison false. Let's say if they
You're honestly doing
yeah, I'm just saying doesn't make a difference. Prison is dangerous because the people in prison, life is hefke for them. They don't care. A lot of murders are committed in prison because I'm anyways locked up. Now what are you going to do to me? Lock me up again? We paskin. Anyways, first of all, we paskin. You should. I remember I said this before. This is very important. You should light the beginning of the zman. The Arishoinen of Chab is one of the mashma this way that if you didn't light in the zman, A half hour later, you blew the mitzvah. You have no mitzvah. The Alter Rebbe doesn't talk about it. It doesn't have in this sermon.
The best scenario for if you're your own boss, you should go home at 4:30.
You're right, exactly. Your own boss should go home and light the Getchila beginning of this month.
Go to shul, daven mincha ma'ariv here at the minyan, and then go home. Daven every day this month at the minyan. You have to daven first, and then you go.
Yeah, we pass.
4:45 here, and then you should be lighting by 5:15.
And you finish ma'ariv. When you go home, the first thing you do, you light.
That's true. Everyone agrees that if you light when it gets dark, you have to daven Ma'ariv first. That's the famous kasha. That's the Gun's kasha. The Vilna Gun asks that if you hold, that's the kasha, which is not just a meeting, many Rishonim ask, if you hold Tishka Chama, why doesn't the Gemara say that you should daven first? And how does that work? That's what.
You're supposed to light before darkness? On Shabbos?
You're supposed to Chanukah lech, it's a mechloikis. Some Rishonim hold you have to light as soon as the sun sets. That means the sun, Tishka. Tishka means when the, how do you say Tishka in English? When the horizon, when you don't see the sun in the horizon anymore. As soon as it dips into the horizon. Other Rishonim learn, you light when it gets dark.
Which is what
time?
Which is about
13 and a half minutes later, 27 minutes later.
According to Shulchan Aruch, according to the Rav, it's 31 minutes. Here in LA, it's 31 minutes. It's dark.
Do you have a regular minyan at, let's say, 10 o'clock at night that you go to tomorrow?
Yeah, you could daven, you could light early. No problem.
Then you can light earlier?
Yes. Yeah. Right. We pass in kofsa ezukigla. If the went out, you don't have to relight it. But nothing wrong if you do, but obligated. But you can't, if you know for sure it's going to go out, you're not yoitza. If you have whatever.
So if your menorah is lit for 5 minutes and it goes out, you don't have to relight it.
You don't have to relight
You use the same exact wick and
Tomorrow, yeah, the next night. Yes.
What would we do then?
No, just saying. You only have to light one candle.
Me'ikar adin is each night we only have to light one candle. The meaning is that each night we add another candle.
But you can get away with a flashlight.
Right? But if you have no choice. Yeah.
Wait, Tauber, that song Chabad sings, it comes from the
You have to ask the Chabad people. I have no idea. I'm not a Chabad. I don't know.
Are you supposed to wait 20 minutes with the candles? How long?
I think it's to wait a half hour with the candles.
So why isn't the Yeshua needs to light an air to run on the time?
I feel that waiting is just a minute. Chassidish minute.
But they talk around with some right after the locker.
Right afterwards.
Light an air, see the sun.
Right afterwards, that's what we do.
Light in there even early, like almost like on Shabbos.
Like a mincha.
It lasts long enough, long enough, and run on time.
That's the video for the
It's not a loch, it's a minig. It's Chassidish minig. I thought in Chabad of Makbid. It's Bashem to said.
This is more important.
Bashem, yeah, all
So
right.
if you're lighting there at 4 o'clock and you putting enough oil to last till 5, you're Yitzhak?
No, one
The
second.
Getchila is supposed to, that's B'di'evet.
Go back, sit by the menorah.
That's B'di'evet. Someone just asked me, a doctor, Mamish just texted me when I was coming here. His shift starts at 4 o'clock, I think he told me, and he's in Arizona. And anyways, Bekitzer, he told me that if he lights before he leaves home, it's going to be about 10 minutes before the Shkia. Should he light then, or should he light 3 o'clock in the morning when he comes home? So I told him, you should light rather before. Should light right before he leaves. Should light for his wife and children. That's what he should do. Technically, yes. Your own boss, you work for others. You should come on. That's your Shalom Bayis question. That's the Shalom Bayis question. I'll tell you, I told someone a few times, I had people who told me that, Friday, if it's a short Shabbos, My wife lights the last minute. And Mama, sometimes, maybe it was even after the Shkia. I said to him, you light the candles. Rabbi, are you kidding? You know what's going to happen? I said, trust me, light 1 week the candles. You'll see it'll never happen again. And it did. 2 people told me they lit the candles and they left home right away. It never happened again. She lit the candles on time. But truth is, often in the winter, you have young children. I used to tell people, I used to tell my wife, rather don't put on your makeup and don't put on the jewelry in your weekday clothing, light candles. You have to light in the beginning of this month. Forget, But it's very important because sometimes, if the rule is, if you don't light 80 minutes, then you forget what time you're lighting. You know what I mean? That's how it happens. Then, people have told me they lit after the Shkia. A lady once called me up sobbing, she didn't without her name, that she lit after the Shkia. It says you're Machal Shabbos.
Since you're on the topic, how early can a woman light?
How early? After Plag Mincha. It's better to light early than a suffix drop after the Shkia. Look at today everyone has a computer. You light with Plag? It's better to light with Plag. It's about 3:41. About 3:41.
I heard something different.
What did you hear?
No, I'm not saying a contradiction. I'm just saying I heard that it can't be more than like an hour before candlelight.
You can light after Plag Mincha. You can't argue with the Shulchan Aruch. The question is, that it says befurish. Let me tell you what it says in Shulchan Aruch. The woman used to go to the mikveh and used to bathe in the mikveh. They didn't have a bathhouse, so a woman has to go for a night in the mikveh, so they would go. So the problem is, when should they light candles? Because if a woman lights candles, she's Mekabel Shabbos. So the Mechabes, many Rishonim hold, she shall light after Plag and not be Mekabel Shabbos, and go to the mikveh, do the chafifa, and see if there's a tzorech.
Is that the best option today?
Today we have a proportion. We have bathhouses at home. Who doesn't have a shower? Who doesn't have? Talking about Zman in Europe, no one had it. Today, if your house doesn't have 2 showers, you're in trouble. You know what I mean? We're talking those days, no one had a shower, so the base of the mikveh had a bathhouse, so they had to go to them to do that.
She's not a Sephardi, she won't be allowed to go to the mikveh anyways before the Shkia. What she should let it fly.
No. Let's say you're taking Shabbos early. If you're taking Shabbos early, what time should she light?
What time? Whenever she wants. When you get home. The time you get home, she should have a lit. That's something else. That's a whole different halacha. Okay, Rabbi Yisrael.